I'm Justin Davis, and this is Drone Camps RC.
Hey guys, welcome back to my Drone Camps channel. I'm Justin Davis. Please do subscribe because we have tons of awesome giveaways, Patreon activity, and all that cool stuff. But today, check it out. Can you believe it? There's another HD Whoop on the scene. This is the SPEDIX Rex, and it is an 80mm frame. It has prop guards all the way around front and back, and it has that canopy that I've seen on other frames out there. This must be a frame that a lot of companies are sharing, but this one has all SPEDIX gear on here, and it's all SPEDIX branded. 12 amp ESC, F4 flight controller on here, and it is a 20x20 stack, so it's compatible with other 20x20 stacks. And it has that awesome RunCam Split Mini 2 onboard recording 1080p at 60 frames per second. So today, guys, we're gonna test it out on some 40mm props, 1636 quad props in the blue bag right there, and the yellow props are 1635 tri props. We're gonna see which one of those gives us better video, whether it's gonna be the quad prop or the tri prop. We're also gonna test it out on 3S battery, 300 milliamp 550 from the RDQ series, and we're gonna test it out on some 2S 650s and 450s, and we'll see which of those batteries and which of the prop combos give us the most jello-free video. I'm also testing out my EV200D goggles today, so I'm excited to show you some of the footage from that as well. Those are diversity antennas. Can you believe it? 4 antennas on a single set of goggles. And I've seen other reviews for these, and you know what? It's not fair because I haven't seen a whole lot of flight footage from these. So we're actually gonna show you some flight footage from these today, and I'm gonna show you some onboard footage from the Rex. Here we go. Let's do a little bit of line of sight flying, and after that we'll do some FPV. Then we'll come back and we'll give you some final opinions and maybe a little more spec talk about the SPEDIX Rex. Here we go. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get this little quad up in the air. It does start automatically recording when you plug in the battery. I'm flying right now on a 3S 450, and I have it in acro. All the rates are set to about 70 all the way across, so it's not gonna flip super quick, but it will be just enough to get me around. If you want to increase those rates, I would bring this all the way up to 80 if I were you, because it doesn't seem to flip quite as fast as the other ones, but that's going to be good for beginners. So it's dialed back. It does come set to 8.0 on the pitch and the roll axis, but I just dialed it back because I wanted it to fly a little bit smoother for some cinematic type flying. And this is not really a freestyle machine. If it's a non-windy day, you can really do some freestyle with this, but today it's a little bit windy, so I'm just going to be fighting the wind a little bit. You can see it's leaning to the left right there, but we're going to fly anyway. 3S punch out. Here we go. 1 2 3. Little thing gets up there, doesn't it? And see if I can bring it back over here. I do hear a little bit of kind of jitter with the 3S battery on this, and I heard it the first time I flew it. I hear less jitter with the tri props on there than I did the quad props. You get the quad props in the mail, but I suggest grabbing some of these tri props. They're just a little bit smoother with less vibrations for your RunCam Split Mini 2, so take that in consideration. But it's flying good. The roll rate is, again, not super high, but this will be just fine for our FPV experience. So let me take you out there. We're gonna test it out on some quad props first. You will see some jello in the quad props, but I think it actually looks pretty good. And then we'll also test it with the tri props that I ended up with for the last few batteries on 2S. I think it probably really shines in the least amount of jello on the 2S battery. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back from the flight test. What did you think about the Rex? Not bad video at all, I didn't think. I thought it was actually pretty comparable to some of the other ones out there that are close to this class, like the 85X. I do have an XM Plus on here tucked in the very back. You can get one just underneath that back frame right there. One thing that was difficult with mine was that it came wired up for DSMX, so I had to move the signal wire from the furthest point back to right next to where the 5-volt wire is. Also, you have to switch the red from the 3.3 volt over to the 5-volt tab. Once you do that, you want all three of your receiver wires in a row. You want ground, the 5-volt, and the signal wire. And yeah, my daughter did my nails, so if you're a cool dad, you'll understand that. But anyway, the props are push-on props. These are the 1635 tri-props from GemFan. They're the brand new props that just came out. It's got that little monkey on the front, which I think is pretty cool. And, you know, the quad props are great, but they are kind of like battery suckers in my opinion. I almost want to experiment with these by cutting them down a little bit, like to 2-blade props, or like a bi-blade prop I think would probably be better, but you might not get half the punch. You're not going to get as much pump as the tri-blade. So the tri-blade is going to be the best prop for this particular drone. So as far as batteries go, you know what, the 2S battery did way better in the video testing for me. Way less jello on 2S as always. And once I put the tri-props on in combination with the 2S battery, the video looked really, really good. It cleaned up a lot of it. But even on 3S, it seemed to be kind of still fairly acceptable, which is kind of cool. It's not half as bad as it used to be, maybe even a year ago now. We have really smooth video on some of these quads. Now, one thing that I did really like about this one is the fact that it does hide everything under this canopy. I've got my XT30 back there, plenty of space there for mounting my antennas off the back with a couple zip ties. And I also like this new trend where they're not putting sort of a plastic block on the bottom, but they do give you an extra one in the box in case you want to put that little plastic surround for your battery to slide into if you're using a certain type of battery. And I'm always using different size batteries, so I like to have the option to be able to use this. And it's nice that they did include a strap this time. Some of them just have that little plastic block, and I think that's kind of limiting you to using like their proprietary battery or a certain type of battery. So this is a cool design on the bottom of this. And by the way, go over this quad with a screwdriver. Make sure all of your motor bolts are tight, because you will lose these your first flight if you don't go and Loctite these. Maybe actually somebody made a comment on my channel last week. A great way to get Loctite inside your motor holes without actually getting a lot of Loctite on the plastic, because it degrades the plastic, is to take a toothpick, dip the toothpick in some Loctite, and dip it inside the holes in your motors. Pretty slick idea, actually. Just gonna take all those Ford screws off, pull the motor off, and do it that way. That's gonna be a lot better result for your prop guards. So you don't actually have them break off, because Loctite actually does pretty bad things to plastic. But they do have this 100 milliwatt antenna. This is a dipole antenna coming out the top. The VTX is really tiny. It's about the size of my fingernail. It's mounted right above the Runcam Split Mini 2. My SD card goes in the side right here, and I'm just going to pull this out. I have a 16 gigabyte. This is going to be a class 10 card. You make sure you use a class 10 card. You can, I believe, use up to like 64 gigabyte on that Runcam Split Mini 2. And it's cool because it is recording at 1080p. Now, one thing that you need to know is that this USB port right here is really insanely close to this motor port right here. So we have two motor ports right there, two on this side. It's nice that those are plug and play motors, so if you kill one, you can just plug another one in, no soldering required. But since they have the flight controller flipped upside down, it puts the USB port on the bottom, because they didn't have quite enough room to have it sticking up sort of traditional mount, and it puts it really close. You're gonna have to take a pair of shears and actually cut back your USB port for plugging in your cable. Just shear back the plastic on your USB cable and you'll be able to make that slot. Otherwise, I couldn't get my cable in there. Now, you also have plenty of tilt in here, it looks like, up to about 35 degrees tilt. I have mine all the way down because I actually wanted to do some more cinematic style flying, and I think the video just looks a little bit better if you do just a little bit less camera tilt. Now, as it sits, this is a PNP version, and it's $139 on the Race Day Quads website, which is still even a bit cheaper than some of the other beta FPV quads out there with HD cameras on them, split mini or the CADX versions. A lot of them seems to be in the $150 to $160 range. So this one is just a little bit cheaper. They also have a version of this, which I think would probably fly even better than this one. It's the SPEDIX REX without the HD option on it. So it removes all that extra gear on there. The HD boards, when you add that extra board, it really does add a lot of weight to the quad, especially if it's a Whoop and it's small already. You're lifting a lot more weight on these. So you're not gonna, it's not gonna be a super crazy freestyle quad, but it will get you some pretty awesome footage. And I didn't break a single prop today because of the frame. So I gotta report that the frame is actually super durable. You can see it flexes a little bit, but it reminds me of the same type of plastic. It might be that polycarbonate like Beta FPV uses. It's got dual reinforced sides front to back, and they do flex out just a little bit, but it bounces right back. There are 4 screws holding on the main canopy, which I took off yesterday to do some soldering, but not too hard to work on these, because really if you had something really bad go wrong with it, you could probably fix this in about, I'd say like maybe under 20 minutes time. So you could pop this 4 screws and make your solder and you're all fixed. But I have to say that my favorite battery was the 2S RDQ series 650 milliamp, getting me just over 3 minutes flight time on this particular battery. I do always like the tattoos because they don't get hot and swell, and I was getting close to maybe 2.5 minutes on a 450. So now it does have 1103 motors on here, which is smaller than the 85X motors, so it's not pulling quite as many amps out of the ESC and from the battery as something like the 85X 1106 motors. The battery of choice again is going to be the 650 size battery, and this one just fits in the strap. So if you're going to buy batteries for the Rex, this is the one I would recommend. 650. If you go any bigger, it's just going to fly a little bit heavy, and the strap's not actually going to accommodate anything bigger than a 650. And I definitely would not recommend trying to fly the 2S300 from GMB, even though this is one of my favorite batteries in the universe. This one tanked out in about 1.5 minutes, and the quad actually dropped out of the air. So avoid anything 300 milliamp or even close to 300 milliamp. 450 is probably the smallest I would fly, but then again, you're only going to get like 2.5 minutes on that 450. So much better, more worth it to go all the way up to the 650. So I think overall it's a pretty cool quad. It does have smart audio on board, and it says 100 milliwatt on the website, which is kind of strange. But when I open up the smart audio, it was already set to 200 and I didn't touch it. So it's cool that you can change the channels and bands from your transmitter sticks, which is pretty nice. But even if it is rocking 100 milliwatt, it got pretty far out there. I'd say at least a couple football fields before it started breaking up. And I actually flew behind the van a couple times and it still held in going around the parking lot. So if you're flying it like in a parking deck or something like that, you're gonna have plenty of penetration with this VTX. So my final impressions of SPEDIX's Rex 80mm HD Whoop is that, well, it gets decent video, probably just as good as the Beta 85X. It has kind of a cool design. The frame actually looks very different than some of the other ones I've seen out there. The canopy looks fairly familiar to some of the other ones. I think there's a Scorpion out there that looks very similar to this, but the frame looks different. It is very durable, so I'm gonna say 5 out of 5 for the durability rating on this quad. Fun factor is definitely 5 out of 5. It's pretty fast on 3S. If you want to kind of do some freestyle on 3S, you can. 2S, if you want to slow it down with the tri-props, will give you a lot better jello free video. And again, I'm pretty amazed that it's a little bit lighter than the 85X and probably gets just as good video. So yeah, the $139 is justified for the price of this, and my overall rating for this is going to be about a 4.8 for the SPEDIX Rex. I think it's a safe bet. Make sure that when you buy the props for it, you get the 1.5mm hole props, because yeah, they have the 1mm ones out there and they will not fit these motors. So a little bit beastier motor shaft on this quad, but solid quad overall. I like the SPEDIX Rex. I think it's pretty decent. I'm Justin Davis, guys. I hope you guys are flying today and having a good one and everything's going right and you're not crashing and breaking stuff. Take care, you guys. I'll see you on the next one.